What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction. In this, we have biggest culture shocks as an American living in the Netherlands. Before we dive into the video, you guys enjoy, please don't forget to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and let's see what we got.
Alright, so I have been in the Netherlands for a little over 1 week. And in this week, I have learned quite a bit about the culture and just the day-to-day living experience of being in the Netherlands. Now, before I get into this video, I just want to say that the title of this video is a bit misleading, just because when we talk about culture shock, we're usually referring to things that take us by surprise, hence the word shock. But I did a lot of preliminary research on the Netherlands before I came here, so I kind of knew what I was getting myself into already. That being said, there's a difference between reading about something, watching videos about it, and experiencing it for yourself. That being said, these are some of the differences that I've experienced living here in the Netherlands compared to the US. And just as a little side note, currently walking around an undisclosed suburb in Brabant, which is a province in the Netherlands. And if you see me looking down, it is because there is quite a bit of snow on the ground still from the past few days. And being from Texas, I'm not used to walking in snow like that. And I'm not trying to slip and fall.
Shout out to my boy being from the great state of Texas. I feel like greatest state on earth, but definitely greatest state in the U.S. But anyways, continue.
On camera. But that being said, the first thing that I've noticed about the Netherlands is the importance of family. Now, when it comes to family, I think that everybody's experience is a bit subjective. But I can say that in the Netherlands, based on what I've heard and what I've experienced thus far, it is very common, for example, for a family to sit at the table and eat dinner together every single night, if everybody's there, of course. And at least in my experience, I can't speak for everybody from America or who lives in America. In my experience, that was not the norm. I'm not accustomed to sitting at the table and eating dinner every day. I mean, I could probably count on one or two hands the amount of times that my family and I have actually done that in my entire life, and I'm 23. But here, we've done it every single night. I don't think I've had a meal away from the dinner table. And I actually find it to be pretty refreshing and pleasant. I think it also depends on the dynamic that you have, the relationship that you have with the people that you're spending time with.
For sure.
In this case, it's not really my family, but I've definitely grown to be very well acquainted with the people that I am eating with, because it's my girlfriend's family. And like I said, it's been a very pleasant experience, and not just the act of eating with a group of people in and of itself, but also the idea of having a support system in place to help me make this transition, to help me make this move and adjust and adapt to my new life here in the Netherlands. And I can imagine that for somebody who doesn't have access to that sort of support system, life can be very, very difficult. It can be very difficult to adjust to living in a new country, or really just any sort of change that one might make in their life.
For sure. All I did was move like 12 hours away. I moved to a different state, and it's definitely been an adjustment, because it's just like, I do have a great support system out here. My wife and her family are awesome. Like, definitely there for anything that I need. But I don't know. It's still like, you just miss home. You miss your friends, especially when you move so far away. You miss your family. Everyone that you know and loved and that you grew up with, now like you're away from them all, and sometimes it get a little tough. But absolutely, I absolutely love the fact that in the Netherlands, I guess for the most part, families come together and eat at the dinner table. I mean, it probably happens in some families here in the U.S., but for the most part, I would say more families do not eat together than families that do. So families that come together, eat at the dinner table, and just for families to be like close knit like that. I feel like I'm tight with my family, but we weren't the family that came and ate together at the dinner table. and we didn't do like a ton of family events and everything like that. So it is a little bit different than for sure what I grew up with. And I love that. I love that. I hope we just had our son today, make 13 weeks today. So as he grows up, that's a tradition that we can definitely take from the Netherlands, take from the Dutch, and use here.
And if you're one of those people who has made a change in your life recently and doesn't have that sort of support system, I have a solution for you. And that brings me to BetterHelp, sponsor of today's video.
BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy more affordable and more accessible. And this is an important mission because finding a therapist...
the heightened importance. Now, in addition to the heightened importance of family in Dutch society, and again, this is all subjective. Maybe everybody else in the U.S. eats at the table together and values family in that way. Not to say that I don't value family, but maybe everybody over there does, and I'm just the odd man out. But in my limited experience, that's not really the case.
No.
That being said, the next thing that has shocked me being out here in the Netherlands thus far is society's view on immigration. And just some of the cultural clashes that I've seen here. Or not so much seen, but at least heard about.
Yeah.
And this was very, very shocking to me at first because Dutch people, Dutch society in general, tends to be very progressive and tolerant from what I can tell. But there are a few exceptions. But based on what I've heard, at least, okay, and don't shoot the messenger, this is just my observation, and I'm just delivering the information that I've received.
I got you.
Some of this intolerance is justifiable, right? And when it comes to things like immigration, I don't really take a stance on these sorts of things because there's so much nuance to be found within those discussions that it's impossible, in my opinion, to develop a truly objective and fair opinion.
I agree.
But
I do agree.
Just to give you an example of what I'm talking about, the biggest ethnic group to have found a lot of... where am I walking? Hold on real quick. The biggest ethnic group that seems to be very troubled, if you will, in the Netherlands is the Moroccan group. Now, I know very little about Morocco. Never been there. Haven't really interacted with the diaspora that much. I don't know if I said that right, but I haven't really interacted with that particular ethnicity that much. So I'm only going based on what I've heard. I do know, however, that with every race, with every ethnicity, with every group of people, there are good people and there are bad people. It really only takes a few bad people to ruin it for all the good people. From what I can tell, that seems to be the case here in the Netherlands. Now, let me just say this, okay? The Netherlands is by and large a very safe place. So I think part of this intolerance comes from a very, very safe culture experiencing a culture shock in their own right, because they don't really understand the type of danger that maybe some places in America experience on a day-to-day basis. Right over here, maybe the worst that might happen to you is your car gets broken into or something like that. In the US, we're talking about losing your life. That's the threat.
Yes.
So
100%.
it's a whole different ballpark. So I can imagine that anytime you have people introducing crime, the likes of which the general population is unfamiliar with, you'll see a lot of pushback. Like I said, justifiably so. But you don't go to somebody's house and start causing problems for them.
Facts.
But I do think that there is a general rigidity about Dutch culture, and I don't think it's just Dutch culture. I think it's maybe European culture in general, just because European countries are by and large more established. Hold on real quick. I don't know where I'm walking, so I'm just going to turn around. But European countries by and large tend to be more established than American society, because America is just a younger country. And just like I was telling some of my girlfriend's family members at the dinner table a few days ago, America is basically a country full of immigrants. So that being said, America doesn't really have a set in stone culture. It's basically for lack of a better term, a melting pot of all cultures. That's
Yeah.
where the term melting pot comes from. So when we have immigrants come from different places to the US, they're allowed to sort of impose their will on the culture because they're helping to create it. Whereas here, a place like the Netherlands, where the culture spans back generation after generation after generation for hundreds, if not thousands of years,
Yeah.
they're not really helping to create or establish a culture.
Okay.
They're simply tarnishing the culture that's already here. Now again, this is just my observation and my personal theory as to
I
why
got
there's
you.
so much tension and turmoil between the culture that I mentioned earlier, the Moroccan culture, and the Dutch culture, right? It seems to me that there's a fundamental incompatibility between the two cultures, and that's why there's a lot of tension. And truthfully, I don't really know of a feasible way to solve this without the cultures kind of finding somewhat of a middle ground. But again,
If I can.
you don't go in somebody's house and force them to change their customs for you,
Facts.
to appease you.
I completely agree. I think I'm definitely staying with him, and immigration is such a nuanced issue. There's so many factors and things that it's hard to come up with a fair assessment, or it's hard to write either side of the fence that you're on. There's drawback to it, and that's just an absolute fact. And so in the U.S. with immigration, there's been pushback because, like he said, a few bad people in a bunch ruins it for everybody, and so I think that's what happens here for sure. A few immigrants commit crime, and now, like, you see so many Americans pushing back on all immigrants, and it's unfortunate, absolutely unfortunate, but that's what happens. I do personally believe if you make the decision to move to another country for whatever reason, then you need to be willing to assimilate to the cultures and the values that country holds. Now, I'm not saying that you need to let go of everything about who you were before you came to the country, all of your values and beliefs and everything. But in holding on to those things, you also have to be open-minded, and you have to be willing to take on the values of that country. Because like he said, you don't expect to go to someone's house and expect them to change. You don't. And so like I said, in America, it's an absolute melting pot, and so it's hard, I guess, to say what the exact culture is here, because there's so many different cultures all blended in. That's why it's a melting pot. But he's saying Dutch culture goes back so far that their culture is established, and I guess the Moroccan culture is just, the cultures clash. The culture it's hard for the cultures to meet and find a common ground. So yeah, I would say that, when moving to another country, you got to be willing to assimilate and take on some of the values and beliefs of that country. And that's what I think about it. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment section.
At least that's not how I was raised personally. So I can see why, for example, the prime minister that recently won the election here in the Netherlands won the election. It's because there's a lot of intolerance, a growing sense of disdain toward those few bad apples that ultimately contaminate the whole orchard, or at least contaminate the perception of the whole orchard. Hold on real quick. Let me watch my step right now before I fall down, because if I fall down on this ice, I'm ending this video prematurely. That being said, the next thing that I've noticed about the Netherlands, and this is less about the people and more about the place itself, is the weather. Now, I had heard that the Netherlands rains a lot, it's always cloudy. The cloudy part is true. The cloudy part is undoubtedly true. Okay, it is definitely cloudy pretty much every day here. I actually have seen the sun a couple of days. But as far as rain goes, it hasn't really rained that much. It did snow a couple of times. Okay, as you can see, all on the ground, there's still snow. This has been here for a few days now. And it's cold. Okay, look, anytime you see me wearing gloves, it's cold. Just know that it's cold. As a matter of fact, I actually started wearing scarves since I came out here, which that's a whole new realm for me. I never in my life wore a scarf before I came here to the Netherlands, and it is most certainly a necessity out here. Not today in particular, but most days here in the winter, it's a necessity to have some sort of face covering or something like that.
I feel that.
But
and yeah,
the weather has been a
shoot. I don't do cold. That's one thing I don't play around with. I don't mess around with. I hate cold. You definitely wouldn't catch me walking around in the snow this long. So I definitely if I'm gonna be outside, I definitely have that face covering. I have everything. That hoodie would be up, bro. I definitely, the gloves he got on look very nice, so they look like they keep his hands warm. But yeah, I don't mess with the outside when it's cold. I'm a summer baby.
major shock coming from Texas. Ironically, it's actually been colder in Texas than it has been in the Netherlands for the past few days, which is not the norm, by the way. I think it's been 12 degrees, 15 degrees in Texas, something like that. Here it's been maybe low 30s. So cold is cold, but
facts.
This seems to be the norm.
Cold is cold.
And I know this because of the tolerance that I see. People seem to have a general sense of tolerance for this cold weather, and that's something that I'm going to have to adopt over time. I have adapted to an extent to this weather, but I don't think that it's something that you ever truly get used to. Just like in Texas in the summer, you don't ever really get used to the heat.
To that heat?
You just kind of learn to tolerate it. And
facts.
In this case, I think that I'm just going to have to learn to tolerate it. But really, it seems like a lot of Dutch people are completely unbothered by this weather. I see people riding their bikes. I actually rode bikes with my girlfriend in the snow a few days ago, and I'm not gonna lie, I took a corner too fast. I almost ate concrete. After that, I learned to take the corners more slowly.
I feel that.
Really had, I don't want to put that on camera, but I just saw somebody wipe out on their bike. I'm talking about wipe all the way out. That's ironic, but anyways.
That's ironic.
I lost my train of thought. I completely forgot what I was saying. But I'm pretty sure I was talking about Dutch people's tolerance for cold weather.
Yes.
I feel like the tolerance for cold weather is pretty interesting just because in Texas, like I'm sure back home, it's 12 degrees right now. Nobody's outside. Nobody's outside.
Nah.
Nobody's out and about. Definitely no one's riding their bike. Okay, that's just not happening in this sort of weather.
That's not happening in the summer.
But I guess that this is just the reality of living here, right? And it's something that, like I said, I'm gonna have to get used to over time. I'm gonna have to get used to riding my bike in this cold weather, and that's just what it's gonna be. Now, that being said, speaking of bikes, the next thing that shocked me about the Netherlands, and again, this is something that I already knew about the Netherlands, but it shocked me in the actual practical day-to-day application of it, is the transportation infrastructure here. You can see right now, technically I shouldn't be doing this, but I think this particular bike lane doubles as a sidewalk, but I'm currently walking on this bike lane right here.
Yeah.
And you know that it's a bike
lane. Don't get ran over, man.
Because it'll be this red color right here. But I'm walking on this bike lane, and these are everywhere. Okay, everywhere in the country, you will see some variation of a bike lane system. And it's very well organized. It's very extremely well organized. Honestly, out here, I don't think you really need a car. I think for most people, a car is simply a luxury for convenience sake. In Texas, a car is a necessity. If you don't have a car, your job options and just general opportunities in life will be very limited.
I feel like that's absolutely one thing I love about the Netherlands, is that a car is a luxury and not a necessity. And most people prefer to ride bikes. And the infrastructure is built for people to be able... For bikes, I guess, are the easiest way to get around in the Netherlands from what I've seen in many videos. I think that's cool because you get your exercise in. You ain't got to waste money on gas. You ain't got to waste money on car insurance. You ain't got to waste money on a car note. You ain't got to waste money on repairs. Yeah, there's so much things that a car needs, maintenance and all that wise, that in the Netherlands you ain't got to worry about all that. So shout out to the Dutch. Bike infrastructure is incredible. I hope my guy don't get ran over. Yeah, tolerance to cold weather is not my thing. Very intolerant of it. Give me a hot summer over a cold. I don't like too hot, but I take too hot over too cold every day of the week.
Because your only other option is to walk 20 or 30 miles, right? Which nobody's going to do that. So having access to bike lanes, which also give you easier access to public transportation, is really, really convenient. Okay, I talked about a car as a form of convenience, but in my opinion, this is much more convenient because guess what? Here, we can also take a car. In Texas, we don't really have the option to use public transportation or to use these sorts of transportation infrastructure systems like we can here in the Netherlands. So to me, it's all about having the option to
I respect that.
Get to your destination however you see fit. And on that note, even being in a car, and by the way, since I've been here, I've already rode the bike on the bike lanes. I've been in a train, I've been in the bus, and I've been in a car.
So
being
he
in a
did it
car
all already.
Is a much more pleasant experience here, primarily because, for one, the drivers are just better because it's much more difficult to earn your license. And I say that with kind of a positive tone because I haven't actually tried to get my license out here. I'm sure that if I was in driving school with how much it costs, I would have a completely different tone right now talking about it. But nevertheless, the drivers here seem to be much, much better simply because driving school is harder. And the roads out here are absolutely pristine. I don't really think that there is anything in the U.S. that compares to it from what I've seen. And I've been to a lot of places in the U.S. There is nowhere in the U.S. that I've been to where the roads compare to the roads out here. I'm talking about you can see the lines everywhere. Okay, you can actually visibly see the lines to separate the lanes. Very few potholes, if any. I haven't encountered any myself. And it's just a much more pleasant experience in general. Let me not walk that way. That's a school. I don't know what the laws are out here regarding recording people or whatever, but I don't want to find out. Anyways, the transportation infrastructure out here is much more efficient. It's much more advanced, I would say. And truthfully, it makes me never, ever, ever want to go back to the U.S. just off that alone. Just off of the transportation infrastructure alone, it really enhances your quality of life in a way that isn't really quantifiable, but when you experience it, you see how it actually changes your day-to-day experience. And it also helps that everything here seems to be much closer to each other, probably because the country is just smaller. It takes 3 hours to drive across the whole country. In Texas, it takes you probably 16 hours to drive across just the state alone.
Yes, I was going to say absolute facts. That's 3 hours to drive across the whole country is absolutely baffling to me, bro. Like, that's insanity. 3 hours to drive across the entire country? Hell. Shout out the Netherlands.
So, that combination of factors really just effective and not short-sighted urban planning really enhances the day-to-day living experience of being out here in the Netherlands. Now, something else that I've noticed, and I think that this kind of ties into a Dutch principle called doe normaal. Something else that I've noticed out here is that the sense of economic equality is unlike anything that I've personally witnessed in the US, right? And we know that the US is pretty much the cream of the crop rises to the top, survival of the fittest, only the strongest survive, etc. And I'm not saying that there aren't elements of that here. There are definitely people who are living better out here than other people. But when I look around these neighborhoods, I mean, you can see around me, you don't really see any sort of wealthy neighborhoods in the way that you would see them in parts of LA, for example, parts of Dallas maybe, Highland Park, Beverly Hills. Those sorts of neighborhoods don't really seem to exist out here. But at the same time, you don't really see slums out here either. You don't see hoods. And listen, all right, I know that there are probably bad neighborhoods in the Netherlands, like I said earlier. Okay, there are different places where maybe crime might be a possibility here, but it's not the same. Okay, you don't have projects in Netherlands. And people are probably like, oh, what are projects? If you have to ask that, don't worry about finding the answer. You don't want to know. There are no
I swear to God,
real...
Hey, you don't want to know what the projects is. You don't. He said if you gotta ask that, you don't want to know the answer. I just stay oblivious to it, and I'm in agreement with my guy.
Big, noticeable discrepancies between the rich and the poor out here.
I love
and
that.
I also find that to be very refreshing. This is something that I also saw in Valencia, Spain. I talked about that in my Why Europe is Better Than America video. I feel like out here, people are not really living to impress other people all the time. They're not just trying to one-up their neighbor. The idea of keeping up with the Joneses. Oh, I got to get a new car because my neighbor got a new car. You don't really see that. Haven't seen too many people wearing designer clothes, anything like that. Not to say that you shouldn't get designer clothes or a nice car, but getting these things just to impress people is just no way to live, in my opinion. And I know this because I was once that person, okay? And if you don't believe me, go back on my channel. You look back far enough, you will see it firsthand. All those videos are still there. I keep receipts. But I just don't really see that much of that here. And like I said, I find that to be really refreshing. It really enhances the average experience of a person living here in the Netherlands. Hold on real quick. Let me watch my step, okay, so I don't fall.
There you go.
Go ahead and turn into this neighborhood right here.
Stay safe, stay safe.
Just being out here in the Netherlands and experiencing this level of economic equality where you see people from all walks of life riding their bikes, riding the bus, riding the train, just doing things like that. That seems to be a very, very big aspect of Dutch culture. Just the whole do normal thing.
Yeah.
I'm not better than you. You're not better than me. Doesn't matter how much money we make. And I said this in the last video, but do normal isn't about keeping other people from succeeding.
Yeah.
It's more about staying in your own lane and not trying to live your life to flex on other people or to be above other people.
Exactly.
And this is actually a concept that I've talked about in the past. I always talked about being better than average, but really, what's the point? I'm not saying you shouldn't aspire to be the best version of yourself that you can be, but at the same time, the best version of you doesn't have to exist relative to other people. You can be the best version of you without having to measure yourself against other people.
I definitely say comparison is a thief of all joy. And it absolutely is, where you're constantly comparing, you're constantly, because at the end of the day, there's always going to be somebody above you, there's always going to be people below you, and so when you're constantly comparing yourself, right, I feel like you're never going to fully appreciate, like, the best version of yourself, because you're going to be comparing yourself to someone else, and just don't do that, right? I feel like, definitely, like you said, aspire to be the best version of yourself. And I feel like if you do that, and you can find that happiness within yourself, it won't matter what other people have or don't have. You won't care, right? Because you're happy within yourself. And that's a huge thing. And I absolutely love the Dutch do normal, right? Where everybody's not trying to flex on each other. Not saying you can't aspire to create wealth or to have material things, but you're not trying to flex them. Like, hey, look at this. Look at the watch. Hey, you see the car in the driveway. You see the big mansion. Nah. And I also love the fact that, I guess from his perspective or his experience in the Netherlands, there's not a huge gap between the rich and the poor. There's more economic equality going on in the Netherlands.
Another thing that I've noticed about the Netherlands is that groceries are much cheaper. Now, this right here, it's not really something that people who aren't from the US, or I don't know what other countries have similar food prices to the US, but if you're from the US, you'll appreciate the grocery prices out here, especially the prices of healthy food, and not only the prices, but the quality. The food, produce in particular, seems to be much higher quality out here. And I don't really know why that is. I mean, it's super cold. I don't know how they can grow anything out here. But they get it done. They get it done, and the fruit and the bread in particular are miles above US fruit and bread. And
I respect it.
On the contrary, on the flip side of that, there is much less selection in grocery stores. So that's the trade-off you have to make. Okay, especially the cereal section. For whatever reason, I don't know if Dutch people don't eat cereal, but it's kind of anemic. Okay, it's a very, very sad sight to see.
I'm not a big cereal
especially as somebody
guy.
who grew up eating cereal almost every day, alone at the table. But
Alone at the table.
I feel like out here in the Netherlands, you won't really see as many different options for any particular item, which honestly, most of the stuff that you see in US grocery stores, people aren't really buying anyways. It's just stuff that you walk past, but you never actually try it out. Most people, they probably just go for the same few things every time anyways. The problem is that here, those same few things aren't really widely accessible in all of the different stores. And I've been to a wide range of grocery stores out here, everything from Jumbo to Plus to Albert Heijn to Lidl, and I think I went to another one, not really sure what it was, but I've been to multiple different grocery stores, actually more grocery stores than I ever went to in the US, and the selection's just not there. But
I feel that.
What is there is cheaper, and to me, that is well worth the trade-off personally, because I'm trying to save money. Okay, I just spent all this money on this flight to get out here, I have bills to pay, so anytime I can save money, I'm happy.
That's also a very Dutch thing, saving money, being frugal with that cash. So it sounds like he's definitely taking on Dutch values sometimes without even knowing.
To ride the bike, being able to get cheaper groceries, even produce, things that would be expensive in the US, is really nice. Okay, it's definitely much appreciated. Now, the next thing that I've noticed about Dutch culture, and maybe you've seen some of this even in this video, don't know how much you've seen other people in this video, in the background maybe, but the next thing that I've noticed about Dutch culture or Dutch society is that the people out here are very fashionable. Now look, I've been to other countries in Europe, where I went to Spain, Valencia, Spain. I spent the day in Zurich, Switzerland. I went to the airport in London. And honestly, this might be the best dressed group of people that I've seen.
Really?
Okay, I'm talking about the stuff that people out here wear, just the average outfit that you see out here. If you wore that back home, you will get compliments all day. Honestly, back home, all you really need is an overcoat. You wear an overcoat and a scarf, I promise you, people will stop you on the street to tell you how nice your outfit is. But out here,
I feel that.
It's just normal. And truthfully, I need to set my game up. Because, like I was saying in my I moved to the Netherlands vlog, my wardrobe is not exactly
it ain't popping for real.
Noteworthy right now. Because again, I'm trying to save money. So
there you
in
go.
that regard, I guess I'm fine. But over time, I will want to maybe learn a thing or two about fashion from the people that I see around here.
You definitely got to save that money, man. You definitely got to save that money. But that's one thing I guess I didn't know too much about the Netherlands, is that everybody was so fashionable. Nobody, in all the videos I watched, nobody really said nothing about how fashionable people in the Netherlands are. And I respect that.
Okay, I can maybe allow the Dutch sense of fashion to inform my own sense of fashion without taking away from my authenticity, because these folks can dress, bro. These people, they can dress. They dress functionally, like I said, scarves, coats, gloves, all of that, but they do it in a way that still looks good. You see, me, I'm not worried about looking good right now. I'm worried about staying warm. Okay,
I
just
respect
like
that.
Julius said in Everybody Hates Chris, coats aren't supposed to be cool. They're supposed to be warm. I'm warm right now, but I definitely want to be cool at the same time. And again, it's not about measuring yourself against other people. It's about just taking in your surroundings and saying, wow, this is cool. This is something that I can definitely implement into my own life. So when we talk about the fashion sense, these people out here, they're dressing like models, at least compared to people back in the US. Now, on the topic of modeling, the next thing that I've noticed about Dutch people, and this is something that I read about as well, but I didn't really understand until I saw it. These people are tall.
Oh yeah,
we all knew that. These are definitely the tallest people that I've seen anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, just on average.
Yeah.
I feel short. This is the first time since I was maybe a freshman in high school, before I hit my growth spurt, that I've actually felt short, like legitimately short. And truthfully, you've seen my girlfriend in my videos. If you haven't, go and watch some of the other videos with her in them. My girlfriend is very short. If it wasn't for her, I think that the average height here would probably be 6'3" or something, okay? I think she single-handedly brings down the...
If it wasn't for her, the average height here would be 6'3". Now we definitely know that, hey, the people of the Netherlands, I think on average, are the tallest people in the world, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
National average height out here in the Netherlands. Because these people are tall, bro. So imagine a society full of tall people dressed like fashion models riding their bikes everywhere. Okay, that's pretty much a good portion of the Dutch experience right here. And also you just have these quaint little neighborhoods like this. I'm loving my time out here thus far. I don't know if I've made that clear or not, but I'm loving my time out here thus far. And look, it's not perfect out here. Nowhere is perfect. Okay, I've been to enough places to know that. Every place will have its flaws. It's all about finding a place that has trade-offs that you're willing to make. And I feel like, at least for this time, I found it.
Definitely sounds like he's went over to the Netherlands. He's for sure absolutely enjoying his time there. Absolutely enjoying the culture, the values, being able to save money by riding a bike. But he's taking it all in, and he's just absolutely loving it. Y'all let me know how y'all feel about the video. That's all we have. If you enjoyed, don't forget to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and check out the next one. I'll see y'all next time.